Hey guys, I want to start by apologizing that last week that Ed Puzzle video on using commas was no longer active. So that was my bad. I really apologize for that. I know that some of you were probably frustrated and I hate to waste your time. So what I thought I would do, because commas are tricky, they are seriously one of the trickiest things out there. We overuse them, we underuse them, we use them in the wrong place all the time. I like to think of them as a way that we take a natural pause as we do when we're speaking. So I'm going to go over the rules that were on that assignment from last week, and then I'm going to go over that assignment from last week. So if you haven't already done it, no worries. I did score it for those of you that turned it in to see, so that you could see how you did. But I thought I'd go over those exact sentences to be more clear and then give you another opportunity to practice with some commas. I've also included a lot of comma practice in Quill. I encourage you to go in and practice with those as we get ready to start writing our topic sentences and our paragraphs, because we are now in week 6. So we're getting there. So real briefly, just go over the rules for using commas, and these are not the only ones, but they're the most predominant ones that you'll face or come across as you write. The first one being use a comma before conjunction. We know that because we've been joining sentences together. So if you're adding a conjunction to combine two sentences, the comma has to go in front of it, not behind it, but in front of it. And then you use your conjunction, and then the second part of the sentence is no longer capitalized unless it needs to be. So, for example, I went to the game, comma, but my team lost. Another example, to use a comma after an introductory element. That sounds really fancy. All that means is example. After a short snooze, comma, Bob got right back to work. You would probably say, after a short snooze, Bob got back to work, and you'd pause when you spoke there. So this would be an introduction. You don't have to say after a short snooze. You could have just said Bob got right back to work. Use commas to separate items in a series. So if you are buying more than two things, you would separate commas. I bought sugar, comma, pasta, comma, and juice. You do put a comma before the and. To separate adjectives. So when you're using two adjectives in a row. So if I just said a thin man approached me after work, no comma. But if I say a thin handsome, I've got two adjectives. A comma would separate those two adjectives. Use a comma to separate the city and the state. So Louis moved to Chicago, comma, Illinois, always between the city and the state. And then another one to use it when you're using days and months and years. So for instance, I will graduate on Monday, comma, September 12th, comma, 2020. The comma goes before the day and the month, and it goes between the date and the year. You would put a comma after the year if there was more to the sentence afterwards. But since there is not, and it's the end of the sentence, it's just a period. So I'm going to go through real quick and see how these should have been done. So even though the paint was still wet, comma, I couldn't resist touching it. That one let you know there was only one comma to be put in. Okay. After the fire burned out, comma, I went inside the house. Two separate sentences. In English class, we read Old Man and the Sea, Dracula, and Beowulf. These are three separate things in a series. They're three titles. So the comma would go after the first one, after the second one, and there you go. I watched television, took a dog for a walk, and drove to the store to get milk. I only need two commas. This is a list of things I did. Well, the first thing I did is I watched television, comma, took the dog for a walk, comma, and drove to get to the store for milk. Vanessa wanted a chocolate milkshake, comma, but she decided on a strawberry one. There's that conjunction again where you put them together. There was a lot of traffic on our way to school this morning, comma. So our bus was a little late while the turkey was cooking, comma. I prepared mashed potatoes. Now here is one of those rules didn't really address, but when you're saying somebody's name as if you are speaking to them, you would put a comma after it. But if you're not, and this is just Sasha likes dogs, comma, but Jordan likes cats. In the basement, I'm telling you where, mice hide between the boxes. After hiking in the woods for 3 hours, comma, I sat down to have a drink of water. The big gray dog, 2 adjectives in a row. So I'm putting the big gray dog wouldn't stop barking last night. Now, unlike number 8, where I just said Sasha likes dogs, in number 12, I'm addressing Jane as if I'm speaking to her. So if I say, Jane, I would like you to meet my mother and father on Tuesday, October 12th, I would put a comma after Jane because I am addressing her. Jane, I would like you to meet my mother and father on Tuesday, and here we go, comma, October 12th. So that gets a comma because you are addressing her, Jane. I need you to go to the hardware store to get nails, paint, and light bulbs. 2, that's a list of things, and you need them between the first 2. After you've used the word and, you don't need a comma again. If you liked Harry Potter, comma, you'll love Lord of the Rings. I've had enough of your silly, wild, and inappropriate behavior. Silly and wild are 2 adjectives, and you're making a list of bad things anyway. I was born in Kansas City, comma, Kansas, that's the city, that's the state, on June 24th, comma, 2014. This would be a comma if I continue my sentence, but there's nothing after it, so it's just a period. I will need to get flour, comma, eggs, comma, butter, comma, and yeast to make the pie crust. Now I realize this said 2 and I added 3, and that was my mistake. So when I did grade them, if you put 2 in any of the right places, but not the third one, you got total credit. So that was my error. And then finally, the same thing as using somebody's name. When you are starting the sentence with yes, no, hey, wow, you're going to put a comma after that introduction. Yes, I would love to go to Orlando, comma, Florida, because that is the city and the state. So when you do your activity today, it's going to look exactly like this, different sentences. The numbers behind it will represent the number of commas needed. And I hope this really helps. Have a great day.